The land buyer was still smiling when Clara Hayes tore the contract in half. The sound was not loud, just one clean rip beneath the rustling corn. But it was enough to silence every neighbor standing along the roadside. Daniel Crow stared at the two pieces of paper in Clara's weathered hands. Behind him, his polished truck waited beside the fence. Beyond the truck stood three men from the county, two curious neighbors, and Clara's daughter, Anna, who had driven nearly 2 hours because she believed her mother was finally ready to sell. Clara let the torn pages fall against her worn cardigan. Daniel's smile disappeared. "Mrs. Hayes," he said carefully, "that offer is worth more than this land has produced in 10 years. Clara looked past him toward the cornfield. The late summer stalks stood taller than she did, their leaves dry at the edges, their tassels pale beneath the afternoon sun. "I know what you're offering," she said. "Then you understand. This is your last chance." Clara bent down, picked up the torn contract, and folded the pieces together. "You're offering money for land that was never meant to belong only to me." Nobody understood what she meant. Not Daniel, not the neighbors, not even Anna. But Clara turned away from the road and walked back into the cornfield, leaving everyone else beside the fence. For 46 years, Clara and Walter Hayes had worked that land together. They had arrived with one borrowed tractor, 6 milk cows, and enough money to buy seed for half the acreage. The farmhouse roof leaked. The barn leaned east. The well pump froze every winter. But Walter believed the cornfield could carry them through anything if they treated it with patience. He wasn't always right. Some years, drought burned the leaves before the ears formed. Other years, storms flattened whole rows overnight. There were seasons when the harvest barely covered the fuel bill. Still, every spring, Walter walked the field before planting. He would press a handful of soil between his fingers, look toward the tree line, and say the same thing. "Land remembers how you treat it." Clara used to tease him for talking as though the field could hear. After he died, she stopped teasing. Walter had been gone for 11 months when Daniel Crow made his first offer. Daniel was not cruel. That almost made it harder to distrust him. He spoke gently. He removed his hat when he entered the farmhouse. He explained that the county road would soon be widened and that the cornfield sat in the perfect location for storage buildings and small commercial lots. His first offer was fair. His second was generous. His third was enough to pay Clara's remaining debts, repair the farmhouse, and leave money for the rest of her life. Anna believed selling was the sensible choice. Her mother's knees hurt. The tractor needed a new transmission. The county tax notice sat unopened on the kitchen table. Clara had begun forgetting to eat lunch when she worked outside. "You don't have to prove anything anymore," Anna told her. Clara looked through the kitchen window toward the field. "I'm not trying to prove anything." "Then why won't you sell?" Clara did not answer. That silence frustrated Anna more than any refusal could have. The town began talking soon after. At the diner, people said Clara was holding on to grief. At the feed store, they said she was too proud to admit she could no longer manage the acreage. One neighbor suggested Walter would have wanted her to take the money. Another said Clara was risking everything over a field that barely turned a profit. Clara heard most of it. She responded to none of it. Every morning she walked the corn rows. She checked the soil. She repaired weak fencing. She marked damaged stalks with pieces of red cloth. And whenever Daniel returned with another offer, she said the same thing. No. If stories about quiet courage, family promises, and people who protect what truly matters speak to you, stay with us here at Willowfield Stories. Around here, the strongest hearts are not always the loudest ones. Anna found the notebook on a Tuesday afternoon. She'd come to clean the farmhouse while Clara worked in the south rows. The notebook was hidden behind old recipe books in the kitchen cabinet. Its cover was faded green, soft at the corners and stained with soil. Anna assumed it was one of Walter's planting records. The first pages confirmed it. There were dates, rain totals, seed varieties, harvest weights, fuel costs. But halfway through the book, the entries changed. Below each year's harvest total was a list of names. Some Anna recognized. Some belonged to families who had moved away years earlier. Some belonged to people she remembered only as children. Beside the names, Walter had written short notes. 3 sacks. No charge. Leave beside porch before sunrise. Do not tell the boys where it came from. Enough for winter. Refuse money again. Anna turned the pages more quickly. Every year had a list. Every harvest had names. Every list represented corn that had never been sold. When Clara came into the kitchen near sunset, she found Anna sitting at the table with the notebook open in front of her. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Then Anna asked, "Who were all these people?" Clara removed her work gloves slowly. Neighbors. "You gave them food?" "Some years." "Every year," Anna said. "The notebook shows every year." Clara pulled out the chair opposite her daughter. She looked older beneath the kitchen light. Not weak, just tired from carrying something alone for too long. "It started after the drought," she said. Anna knew which drought she meant. It had happened before she was born, during Clara and Walter's 4th year on the farm. The rain stopped in May. By July, the corn leaves had curled into brittle ribbons. The cows were sold one at a time. The seed bill went unpaid. Walter took night work repairing machinery in another county. Clara stretched flour until there was almost nothing left to stretch. Then, one morning, they found 2 sacks of food on the porch. No note. No name. The next week, someone left seed beside the barn. A mechanic repaired Walter's tractor and refused payment. A neighbor filled their fuel tank after dark. No one asked Clara and Walter to thank them publicly. No one made them explain how bad things had become. The town simply carried them quietly until the farm could stand again. When the harvest finally came back, Clara said, "Walter and I made a promise." Anna looked down at the notebook. The cornfield. Clara nodded. Part of every harvest would go back to people who needed help, quietly, the same way help came to us. Anna's frustration softened, but it did not disappear. You could still help people after selling. With what? The money. Clara looked toward the window. Money disappears when the person giving it disappears. A field can keep giving after we're gone. Anna closed the notebook. For the first time, she understood why her mother refused to sell. But understanding the promise did not solve the problem. The tax notice still waited on the table. The tractor still needed repairs. And Clara had not told Anna how close the farm was to being taken from her. 3 days later, Anna opened the county letter. The unpaid amount was larger than she expected. If Clara could not settle it before the end of harvest season, the county could place a lien on the property. Daniel Crow already knew. When he returned that week, he brought a new contract. The offer was higher. The deadline was shorter. "I'm not trying to take advantage of you," Daniel said as he stood on Clara's porch. "I'm offering you a way out before the county makes the decision for you." Clara did not invite him inside. "The decision is mine. For another month, perhaps." Daniel placed the contract on the porch rail. "When you're ready, sign the last page." He walked back to his truck without waiting for an answer. Clara left the contract where it was. That night, Anna confronted her mother. "You were going to lose the land and never tell me. I was trying to find another way. There is another way. Sell it." Clara turned from the kitchen sink. "And break the promise? Walter wouldn't want you homeless because of a promise?" Clara's expression changed. It was the first time Anna had spoken her father's name, as though she understood what he would have chosen. "You're right," Clara said quietly. "He would not." Anna waited, but he also believed promises mattered most when keeping them became difficult. The room went silent. Neither woman apologized. Neither woman left. They sat at the kitchen table until the lamp burned low, the green notebook resting between them. This is the kind of story we believe should be remembered. Stories where ordinary kindness travels quietly through families and communities until the day it returns. If you believe those promises still matter, you are already part of the Willowfield community. By early September, the corn was nearly ready. Clara calculated the harvest carefully. If the yield held, she could sell enough to cover most of the tax bill and still preserve a portion for the families listed in Walter's notebook. It would be close, but it might be enough. Then the storm arrived. The sky darkened shortly after noon. Wind pushed across the field in hard waves. The first rows bent. Then the rain came. Clara stood at the kitchen window as the cornfield disappeared behind gray water and flying leaves. By evening, the south rows were flattened. The old equipment shed had lost part of its roof. Branches blocked the lane. The field that had carried Clara and Walter through nearly half a century lay broken beneath the storm. The next morning, Clara walked the damage alone. Mud pulled at her boots. Corn stalks rested across one another like fallen timber. Some ears could still be gathered. Many could not. Anna followed several steps behind. Neither woman spoke until they reached the center of the field. Clara bent down and lifted one damaged stalk. Her hands trembled. For the first time since Daniel made his offer, she looked defeated. He returned before sunset. His polished truck stopped beside the fence. He walked into the field carrying the contract in a clean folder. "I heard about the storm," he said. Clara looked at the broken rows. "My offer still stands." "For how long?" 24 hours. Anna watched her mother. Clara accepted the folder. That night, she placed the contract on the kitchen table beside Walter's green notebook. She read every page. She read the offer. She read the tax deadline. She read the names of families Walter had written down across decades of harvests. Then she picked up a pen. Before she could sign, headlights appeared beyond the kitchen window. One vehicle stopped near the barn, then another, then 3 more. Clara stepped onto the porch. Reverend Thomas was the first person out. He carried Walter's green notebook. Anna stood behind him. Clara looked at her daughters. "What have you done?" Anna's voice was gentle. "I asked for help." Clara's face tightened. "We do not embarrass people." "You never did," Anna said. "But you also never let them know who helped them." Reverend Thomas opened the notebook. I called some of the names. A truck door closed near the lane. Mabel Reed stepped into the porch light. She was older now, her back bent and her hair white, but Clara recognized her immediately. Walter had written her name in the notebook 19 years earlier. 5 sacks. Leave after dark. Children must not know. Mabel approached Clara slowly. "My boys ate that winter because of you," she said. Behind her came a mechanic carrying tools, a farmer with a spare combine part, a family bringing food, 2 brothers with tractors, a woman whose name appeared beside an entry from 12 years earlier. Then more headlights came down the lane. Before the field could be lost, remember this: kindness is rarely wasted. It may leave quietly without applause or recognition, but it often finds its way home when the person who gave it needs help most. By sunrise, more than 30 people stood beside Clara's field. Some brought machines, some brought fuel, some brought gloves, ropes, and tools. Some brought nothing except their hands. Clara tried to refuse. Mabel Reed stopped her. "You taught us how to accept help without shame," she said. "Do not make us forget." The work began before the sun cleared the tree line. The men repaired the equipment shed. Anna and several neighbors lifted damaged stalks. 2 farmers brought harvesting equipment small enough to move carefully through the flattened rows. Children collected usable ears in baskets. Reverend Thomas organized meals beside the barn. The field did not return to what it had been before the storm. No miracle straightened every row. No sudden fortune replaced the ruined crop. But by late afternoon, wagons filled. By evening, the tax bill could be paid. And before darkness fell, Clara set aside the same portion Walter always had. 3 sacks for one family, 5 for another. 2 baskets left near a porch before sunrise. Daniel Crow returned the following morning. He carried a fresh copy of the contract. He stopped beside the fence when he saw the trucks. Families were loading corn. Children were carrying baskets. Neighbors were repairing Clara's barn roof. The field he intended to buy was doing exactly what Clara had promised it would continue doing. Daniel found her beside the road. She held the 2 torn pieces of his first contract. He looked toward the field. "So, everyone knows now." Clara followed his gaze. "Yes." He waited for her to say more. She did not. Finally, he returned to his truck and drove away. The town never looked at the cornfield the same way again. It was still land. It still needed rain. It still demanded fuel, labor, seed, and patience. But it was also a promise made visible. For years, Clara and Walter had believed the promise belonged to them alone. After the storm, Clara understood they had been wrong. The promise belonged to everyone who had received it. Everyone who had carried it without knowing its name. Everyone who returned when the field could no longer stand by itself. The following spring, Anna moved back to the farmhouse. She did not come because Clara asked. She came because she wanted to learn. Together, they opened Walter's green notebook at the kitchen table. The final page was blank. Clara handed Anna a pen. "What should I write?" Anna asked. Clara looked through the window toward the field. "Start with the names of everyone who came." Anna smiled. "That will take more than 1 page." Clara smiled too. "Good." Years later, people still told the story of the widow who refused to sell her cornfield. Some remembered the torn contract. Some remembered the storm. Some remembered the night the headlights came down the lane. But Clara remembered the first 2 sacks left on her porch during the drought. She knew every act of kindness begins somewhere small. A bag of seed, a repaired tractor, food left where no one has to ask, and sometimes a field protected by one stubborn widow until an entire town finally understands what it was growing. Thank you for spending this story with us here at Willow Field Stories. If it moved you, like the video, share it with someone who believes kindness always leaves a harvest behind, and subscribe for more stories of family, courage, legacy, and communities that refuse to let one another fall.